everyone, Isaac here. I'm finally back after I think almost a month long hiatus from really uploading. I was moving and then I was sick, but I'm back, and today I'm starting my new tutorial series that I'm calling Concept Synthesis. In this series, I'm going to be exploring different aspects of music and sound design and see how we can integrate them to make something hopefully awesome. In each video, my plan is to start with something basic and then build and expand upon it. Now, I was originally going to go ahead and dive right into sound design and synthesis, but as I was preparing to record, I realized that a lot of the stuff I was going over, even at a basic level, required some kind of foundation and understanding of how sound works. And so instead of getting right into the more complex stuff, I thought I would make a basics video first, since I would probably have to do this down the line anyways. So sorry for delaying the more of the fun stuff that I was wanting to get to, but hopefully whether you're new to synthesis or have been doing it for a while, this will be a fun, refreshing take on the basics of sound design. Now, I'm going to be using VCV Rack, as you can see right here on the screen. It's an open source audio software that emulates a sort of Eurorack modular synthesis environment. And I'm going to be using VCV Rack not just because I've been uploading videos of it since the beginning of when I started uploading, but also because since VCV Rack is modular, it's easier to kind of see the basic and different components of sound and how they kind of connect to each other and can build upon each other to create something bigger. And so hopefully everything in this video will be applicable elsewhere, whether you have VCV or you have hardware or modular or software synthesis plugins. And because I'm trying to be as broad as possible, I won't be going over the specifics of how VCV itself functions. If you need to learn about that, there are a lot of amazing YouTube videos and documentation out there that do a fantastic job at this. And actually, that's how I learned about VCV. And so if you need any of that, I'll link to some of the ones that got me started in the description below. Otherwise, let's get started into the basics of sound design. So the first thing that we need to understand is the way that sound works. Basically, sound is a wave or a vibration that being propagated through a medium, like air or water, and the result of that vibration hitting those different mediums is interpreted by our brains as sound. You can see a visualization of that vibration here. How fast that wave vibrates determines how high the pitch is. So the higher the vibration, or the faster the vibration, the higher the pitch. The lower the vibration, the slower the vibration, the lower the pitch. We call this pitch frequency and measure it in terms of vibrations per second, or hertz. The second thing we need to learn is the different components that are used to make and create sound. Now, different people use different categories. I'm going to be splitting these categories into just a basic three so that it's a little bit easier to understand. The first thing that we need is a sound source. These sources can be something that emit a waveform, like a VCO or a voltage-controlled oscillator. It can be a sample or a ROM player, which basically just plays back a recorded sound, or even just a noise generator. These things produce a sound and sometimes have various controls that help us change the pitch of the sound or even shift between the different sounds that are available. The second thing that we need is something that modifies or changes that sound. This is a pretty broad category and can include things like filters, which take out different frequencies, LFOs and envelopes, which modify the sound on a loop or a one-shot, VCAs and attenuators and mixers, which kind of amplify or polarize or mix together the sounds that we produce. Now, there are a million ways that you can actually modify sound. You can modify the sound's pitch, you can modify its loudness or amplitude. Furthermore, you can use modifiers on modifiers. For example, you can put an LFO into a filter and it will automatically change the frequencies that can be used on a loop. But that's basically the general idea of the second component of sound, using something that modifies or changes our sound source. There's also a third category that is especially important in music, and that is control for the sound. Basically, these controls tell the sound whether it can be emitted, how long it can be emitted for, and whether multiple sounds can happen at once. And there's other things that it can do as well. In this third category, we can have things as simple as gates, which basically turn a sound on or off. Or something as complex as a sequencer or arpeggiator, which basically leads the sounds we're producing through a series of modifications. More importantly, in this category, we have what we call a clock, which sets off a signal at a set rate. This clock determines things like tempo, or helps gates to know when to shut on and off, or tells a sequencer when to go to the next step, things like that. There are other miscellaneous components to sound design as well, such as sample and hold and Boolean logic switches, which are kind of more complex gates. There are also scale quantizers that help us set our music to a scale so that it plays well with traditional music instruments like keyboards and guitars. Or even effects like reverb and delay, which kind of bring a whole nother texture and quality to the sound that we're creating. But I would say that these additional things, while important, are kind of frosting that would be added to the sound that we're creating, rather than the essential things that help us kind of mold the sound. Although, of course, you can make an argument for effects like reverb, which sometimes can be really, really important to the sound itself. With that being said, it's important to mention that each of these categories mentioned are not really mutually exclusive. For example, while sequencers are often used to determine a series of pitches that our sound sources must play, they can also be used to modify how loud or soft a sound is, or even jump between filter settings. A filter, when it has a resonance control, can actually be used as a sound source because it self-oscillates at high levels of resonance. And a sound source can actually also be used to modify another sound source, as in the case of FM synthesis, or what we call frequency modulation synthesis. And of course, an LFO can be used like a gate in many cases. For this video, I'm not going to be really going into depth into each of the things that I mentioned, since that's actually the point of all the other videos down the line in this series. But knowing that these categories exist in sound synthesis really helps us to get started in sound design. And then understanding how these boundaries between the categories can be stretched or even broken helps to open up all kinds of possibilities that we can use to experiment with and be creative with. And often we come away with something that is new or original because we're not using these components in their specific categories. With that, I haven't even begun to touch the tip of the iceberg that is sound design, but hopefully these foundations will help as we dive deeper into this video series and help you wherever you are in your journey into the world of sound synthesis. And that's it. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions about ideas or concepts in this video, or have any ideas about future videos, especially any tutorials that you would like to see about sound design or synthesis in general, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd be glad to see if I can accommodate or answer your questions, or even make a video about some of your suggestions in the future. But until next time, have a good one.